Hi class, this is Mrs. Guzman. Today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting mixed numbers with like denominators. So when we're adding fractions, we always look at the parts that are shaded or the parts that are not shaded. This time we're looking at parts that are shaded. Our first fraction shows 4/5 because 4 parts are shaded out of 5. Our second fraction shows 3/5 because 3 parts are shaded out of 5. When I add them together, I have 4 plus 3/5, and that equals 7/5. So the total number of shaded parts are 7, and they're still in fifths. When the numerator of a fraction is greater than the denominator, how does the fraction compare to one whole? This means the fraction is greater than one whole. So this is really 5/5, which we know equals 1, plus 2/5, or 1 and 2/5. When you're adding mixed numbers, the wholes and the fractions are added separately. After the addition, the sum of the fractions might be a fraction greater than 1. This fraction needs to be converted to a mixed number. Let me show you how. So first we're going to add our whole numbers. 3 plus 1 is 4. Then we're going to add our fractions. 2 plus 4 is 6, and we still have fifths, so 4 and 6/5. Well, I know that in 6/5 I have 5/5 plus 1/5. My 5/5 is 1, and I still have my 1/5 left, so my final answer is really 5 and 1/5. When we're subtracting fractions, things work a little bit differently. If the fraction on the bottom is larger than the fraction on the top, then we need to take 1 away from this number before we start subtracting. So I'm going to add 8/8 to my 2/8, which is going to give me 10/8, and I'm going to take away 1 from my 6. Now I can subtract just like I did when I was adding. 5 minus 4 gives me 1. 10/8 minus 5/8 gives me 5/8. When we compare fractions, we use the greater than and less than symbols. I want to remind you that these symbols are on the end of a number line. When the numbers get smaller, they are less. When the numbers get greater, they are bigger. So if I'm comparing these two fractions, they make it really easy for me because I already know that 3 is greater than 1. So of course, this fraction is greater. So 3 and 2/5 is greater than 1 and 4/5. So the first thing you should always do when you're comparing fractions is look at the whole number first. That can give you a simple clue on which fraction is greater or less. So I'm going to go over subtracting fractions one more time just so we get this cemented. So I have 6 and 1/4 minus 2 and 3/4. 2 and 3/4 is on the bottom because it's a smaller fraction. We always subtract the smaller number from the larger number. The issue that I have here is 3/4 is greater than 1/4. So I can't subtract. I need to take away 1 from here and add it to my 1/4. So in order to add 1 to 1/4, I have to actually add 4/4. So I end up with 5/4 minus 3/4. We're going to start with our whole numbers first. So my 5 minus 2 is 3. 5/4 minus 3/4 is 2/4. Some of you want to reduce, so we will reduce this fraction by dividing by the same number on the top and the bottom. So now I have 3 and 1/2. I hope that helped you to learn how to add and subtract mixed numbers with like denominators. See you next time.